Hi everyone. Welcome to our video. This is our presentation for our project. We decided to do a Marvel themed Jeopardy. I'm Kent Harmon.
Andrew Alvarez.
And I'm Marrilyn Keutcha. Okay, so for our goal for this project was to create a functional multi-web game replicating the regular Jeopardy format. So we built a system that supports two, three, or four players and includes all the major game features that you would expect in a Jeopardy game. For example, real-time scoring, daily double, and final Jeopardy. And we structured this project entirely with PHP, HTML, and CSS to provide a dynamic 30-question game board and initiated the closest to number mini game to determine who gets to start. And the challenge that we had for this is that we could not use any JavaScript. So the only way to achieve a dynamic stateful application was to handle everything on the server using PHP sessions. So we start off with the home page, and it's simply the main gateway, letting us choose the player count. And next, we have the name entry, enter_names PHP. And this file is critical because it runs session start officially and initializing the PHP session. And then we validate the number of names and immediately store them into session player names array. And this is how we link player identity to the score for the whole game. And then finally, we have the question bank, questions.php. And it's basically a PHP array that defines all the categories, questions, and answers.
Okay, so for the PHP sessions, the way that it works as far as clicking, first the user would click the value, which redirects them to an A link. The browser sends a request to the PHP file. For example, it could be the 3-player PHP, it could be the 4-player, whatever. And then the logic updates the game memory in the session array. The PHP rebuilds and sends a brand new HTML page showing the change. And then as far as the brain session, we use the session to track everything, such as the player scores, the current turn, and also the used cells. So in this pretty much remembers what each player had selected for their turn, and what cells they selected and which questions they'd be prompted. And then as far as handling answers and feedback, the answer logic, which is our post when a player submits an answer, it compares their answer, which that they type in, to the actual correct one. And then it updates the session or the player scored, either adding or subtracting. This they'll know after they press submit. And then this marks the cells as being used. So this will, in the session for used cells, it will mark whether that cell had been used or if it wasn't. And then it calculates for the next turn, updating the session and the current turn. So then it will go to the next player. The feedback system is pretty much, if it's correct, we redirect, and we set the feedback variable to 1, which displays a correct overlay. If it's incorrect, it goes back to the board and the score is updated. So there would be no other overlay for that.
For our dynamic features in GameFlow, since we can use JavaScript to show the overlays, we basically just had PHP update the page on reload, so that when a value that is needed for that overlay to trigger, say like the daily double one in the screenshot, the user would have to click on a daily double card. When it updates, the HTML for that specific overlay is then added on that page reload only. And then when it reloads after this page is no longer needed, the HTML is removed, essentially making it look like and function like a module overlay. For the daily double, we basically just had PHP check, like I said earlier, if a card that is selected has the daily double parameter attached to it. If it does, then it redirects the user to the wager screen where they select how many points they want to wager. before showing the actual Daily Double question. And then for Final Jeopardy, basically we just had PHP check if all the cards have been used. And if they have, then we had it automatically redirect all the players to the Final Jeopardy.php page to complete the question left and finish the game. And then this is our demo.
Okay, so this is our home page, and as you can hear, we use a background noise that enhances our web, and at the background shows Marvel characters, and on the homepage you have the options to click 2-player, 3-player, 4-player. So if we click 2-player, it automatically takes us to the 2-player page. So the system then directs us to the Who Goes First challenge, and here you can just input the numbers, and this is executed using the standard PHP post action, and then the server calculates the winner based on those numbers and determines who controls the board first. And now this is our main board. So when a player selects a value, this triggers a full page reload request to the server and then reads the request and loads the question form. And then the player submits the correct answer.
And when the page reloads, if the player was correct, as you can see they were, that point value will get added to their score, or otherwise it'll get deducted if they were incorrect. Now player 2 is going to answer a question. And of course, you can see they were also correct. And when the session got reloaded, the turn was handed off to player 1 again. So here, the player is clicking a daily double card. Immediately, you can tell the music has changed completely. That is done through a PHP session update, only having this audio element on the page instead of the previous one that is retained and reserved only for the main background. So this is the wager screen for the user to enter how much they want to wager for this question. And then this is the actual question for the Daily Double. And of course, this works like every other question. If they get this wrong, it'll get deducted from the points. Otherwise, it'll get added. And it is now over. You can see the music has once again switched back to the original one, and the turn was turned over to player 2.
Okay, so for the Final Jeopardy, they're putting in their answer, but more or less, here we go. So each player is going to put a number down for what they're wagering, and our code validates whether or not the wager doesn't exceed the score, and it also shows the Final Jeopardy question. And then once they've submitted their answers, it will check the answers against the correct list that we have. And the list that I'm talking about would be our questions for Marvel that we've decided on. And so it will, from there, determine the actual winner.
So this is after the presentation. It's just something we wanted to do to explain the code in a little bit more detail, and to kind of point out some of the stylistic choices we went with. So initially starting on the index page, this is the main page that opens up when the website is loaded in. As you can see here is where the CSS preloader is defined, that little preloading screen that you get with the logo that flashes, that's where that is defined in all of its classes that are styled in Marvel CSS. This is also where the background video was mostly created. So here we put all the videos in a div class called video background. And there is, I believe, 8 of these that basically are all playing at the same time on autoplay, all muted, and they all consistently keep looping. And this basically is used with a combination of CSS to transition between the videos to give the effect that it is one video going to the next and the next and the next, without having to use JavaScript. So it was a really creative way to implement that feature without using it. Hopping over into 2-player, which is where this on-click is taking you, we transition from HTML to PHP, and the rest of the pages on the website are just in straight PHP because of the logic we had to implement that the homepage does not use. For example, you got the initialized setup at the start. In here we're basically just defining a lot of the base variables. For example, we got the player session and the player names, so player 1, player 2 being initialized in the match, the player scores, which both start at 0 right here, the use cells, which is the array where the cards that have been clicked are going to go into, is being initialized here. And then we've also got this being initialized here. This is the randomizer for the target number, and then this is the array for the guesses for each player. So basically this is what's going to store what number the player decides to play, and whoever number is closest to this is who is going to take control of the board first. This is the logic for resetting the game. When you click the title in the middle of a currently running game, it restarts the game. So that's what this function is doing. Basically, session unset, unsetting the session, and then session destroy is destroying any previous cached cookies or anything from previous sessions so that you are truly starting with a fresh slate. This is what wiped all the cards out and sets them back to new, player data, all of that. And this is what reset is doing. This function is for the daily double feature, specifically for the wager overlay that comes up first before the question. As you can see, this is defining what the wager is that can be waged up to, like the amount for the question. This is the category that the daily double was found under, the value of the daily double card itself, and then the current turn, basically who clicked on the daily double. This is storing like who that is. This is where the questions are being stored at. As you can see here, we have the variable all questions defined. This is literally where every question on the board is stored, and as you can see, it is being stored in a nested array. Where on the outer part of the array, the elements are the categories for each question. And then as you can see, the arrays for the values themselves also have another nested array for answers as well. And then this is just a quick show of what Final Jeopardy looks like. So first off, we're detecting the number of players, initializing the player names and player scores for the session, and then detecting the number of players and their scores. And then this is where the final question is being defined, the correct answers, which are once again stored in an array. This is the loop that defines what the maximum wager that a player can go up to is. This variable specifically right here makes sure that a user cannot go past a certain amount of their score value, go past like their current score value. And then the absolute value also makes sure that if the player's value is negative, they can still go past it. so that that's not causing issues with submission. And then here in the session is where the answers for the question for the Final Jeopardy and the results are stored at. And then this is trimming the form once the users answer for the answers to the question. And then it's checking if that user's answer to the question was correct or not by finding it in the array. And it stores the user's answer in variable answers at index whoever the user is, and then stores their result at index whoever the user is, and then stores whether that their answer was correct or not. The session then defines the final answers and final results based off of this function, and then each player's scores are updated based on whether they were correct or incorrect. And yeah, that's our breakdown.